All right, we are back at it.
Welcome to episode 2 of now what is called D&D. Uh, Doherty and David,
David and Doherty.
David and Doherty, whatever. Also, even though you probably won't be seeing this on the day it was shot, Happy St. Patrick's Day
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you too.
to all you Irish people. And even if you aren't Irish, you can still do whatever you do. I saw this thing on Facebook where it was like they put out cookies and milk for like a leprechaun. It was a
There you
family
go.
thing. I'd never seen that before. I was like, you know what? That's for one of like the minor holidays. I thought it was still kind of like, well, hey, you can still do things like that with your kids without encouraging alcoholism.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly though, that is what the leprechauns would want over milk and cookies.
Well, who knows what's in the milk? But anyway,
Get some Baileys in
yeah,
there.
exactly. So kind of, I had an interesting discussion that earlier this week with my girlfriend's parents, and I've kind of been chewing on it. It's the idea of what makes a person creative. And so, all right, hear me out.
Okay.
So, there's this trend in education where it's so the model of education is called it's progressive education, and one of the main ideals is that they want to encourage kids to kind of they're trying to break the mold of classroom, you're judged by how well you do on tests
Sure.
and stuff, and I think that I'm not sure how that'll turn out. I guess what I'm trying to say is they're trying to move more towards hands-on as opposed to the regular old you know song and dance.
Right.
um
Which I'm a fan of.
yeah
Moving on past
and
that.
definitely it's like I think that some kids definitely would probably thrive by I know I'm that way. I'm assuming you're that way.
Not a great
Or-
test taker.
Where it's just like I learn by applying the skills.
Yeah, I mean, I learned some from people telling me and whatnot, but it doesn't do much for remembrance.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess it- I don't know. I saw this. I read this article where this guy was basically saying that all of these entrepreneurs, all these great minds, all have one thing in common, and it's that they went to this progressive primary school, well, primary and then secondary, and then went on to go to like art school.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's basically like, well, it set them up to, you know, have all these great ideas. So that kind of got me thinking. So can you teach creativity?
Can you teach creativity?
Yeah. And it's like, do you, if you're, and is it for everyone? Like, should we, is it good to be like, to kind of be like, yeah, all those weird thoughts in your head, put them on paper. But it's like, but is that really for everybody?
No, I don't think it is. I think that there are people who are built as super like straight thinkers, and a lot
Yeah.
of people who just apply like the book knowledge and stuff. They have some creativity in them, but they don't rely on it, nor do they want to use it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that if they express themselves at all creatively, that we should stifle them.
No, no.
But I don't think any rule is hard and fast for everyone.
Right.
In like a societal sense.
Yeah, yeah, and and that's kind of the thing that that bugged me. It was like, we want to make everyone think this way, and
I don't think that that's gonna work.
Yeah, and it's like, I feel like in the way things are, or at least the way they're supposed to be. I mean, the arts are kind of suffering right now. It's like, but anyway, you know, we have things that kids can do in terms of creating stuff like art classes and, you know, theater and
creative writing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then with the huge industry of like film and stuff being super accessible to everyone, I think a lot of people are expressing themselves creatively online.
Oh, yeah.
Through things like YouTube,
Totally.
or even Twitch or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's very good. I think because they can get that feedback, both good and bad, you end up getting kind of used to hearing what you don't want to hear, but also having people actually appreciate your work.
Yeah.
Both again in school and in online and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
definitely. Teachers shouldn't be going around, yelling at kids, being like, "Your work sucks. This is never going to go anywhere." But obviously, you need creative criticism. But obviously, kids are going to look at other kids' works and be like,
"What?
Well, that sucks. And that's stupid."
Well, yeah, because kids are the realest people you'll ever meet.
They are. They are.
But yeah, so that's kind of, I've been kind of chewing on the whole idea of, it's like, is the awareness of what am I trying to say? Does the fact that you're aware of, it's like, hey, I make stuff, I'm a creative. It's like,
just because you create something, I don't think you're necessarily creative.
Right. Yeah.
Because you get people who study and apply knowledge from other people, but it ends up coming out kind of paint by numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They're applying other people's creativity, but they're not themselves being creative.
Yeah, like you're using the skills that in your craft, if we're gonna use that word, but you're kind of taking orders from someone else, like a director or something.
Yes and no. It's not just that. I think that some people want to be good at something and aren't. And while you can become good at something that you are not naturally good at, it is much easier if you have a natural leaning towards it. And I think the danger that some people fall into is that when they're trying to make themselves good at something, they end up just copying someone else or some things from other people, and it does not come out as creative. It just comes out as a ripoff.
Yeah.
Or a copy. And I don't think that's really a creative outlet. Now, granted, it could lead to something creative down the road, but that itself is not necessarily creative.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting. My girlfriend had dropped a little knowledge or wisdom nugget. It was kind of like, I think she said something along the lines of everyone has a little bit of that in them, and they express it in different ways. They're not necessarily making art, like making something tangible, but like she was talking about her mom and her aunt, who are very much homemakers, and they kind of, their vision kind of gets, it's either in like a scrapbook or like knitting or how to decorate their house. It's like there's a little bit of that, the whole left brain right brain kind of thing. It's kind of like if we all were left brained, it's like everyone would kind of go off in a corner, and because I feel like there, as a creator, you kind of want to just like mine. But I've kind of had to learn that once you make something, and you kind of release it, it's like, it's gone. It's not yours anymore.
It's not really yours anymore.
It's kind of up to everyone else to decide,
To interpret it,
exactly.
To say whether or not they liked it, or to see something you may not have even intended in it, which is definitely one of the weirder things, I think, to come out of art, is other people's interpretations.
Yeah.
And how much other people can read into things. That I don't necessarily think the original artist was intending to have them read into. What comes to mind is like poetry classes. When I was in college, we were going through this like creative writing, and of course poetry is part of that.
Yeah.
And one of my teachers was going through a poem and actually pulled out like the color of the curtains were blue because of how the artist was feeling during his life, and this is what he meant by that. And I'm like, or hear me out on this, or maybe, just maybe, he picked that color because he likes blue. Or he just needed a color and blue rhymed.
Yeah. And it's like, there's a part of me that's kind of like, that I want to know what they intended, but then it's like, it's kind of disappointing because you have your own take on it, and then you're like, oh, so I was wrong. But was I wrong? Or,
well, yeah, I mean, I think that art can mean things that the artist does not necessarily intend, and definitely people read into whatever they want.
Yeah.
But I think that an artist has a fairly specific picture when they create something that they want to come across, and I think a lot of the times that does come across, but then there's a bunch of underlying things that not necessarily it was intended. It was just kind of like, you can read whatever you want into this. And I think, the deeper you delve into an art piece, the more you can technically pull out of it, but the less maybe the artist was intending for you to pull out.
Yeah. And is that really, I mean, man, we got deep real quick. and that's kind of where my mind has been, just kind of like, it's kind of self-reflecting, and like, do I, as for someone who wants to, pursue making stuff as a living, I don't know. I've been reading and talking to a lot of older creators, and there's this kind of this almost, I was chosen, I was meant to do this, and no, you have to be of a certain, there has to be a certain gene,
certain quality.
Yeah, and I was just like, but for me personally, it didn't really dawn on me until like 3 years ago, and then I've been reflecting. It's like, before I got into sports, they're like, hey, you're pretty tall, you should try that basketball thing. I would just go in my room, draw, and write stories, and then I'm just like, oh, so this is a way that I like to express myself. So, okay, but I just realized that. So, does that mean that I'm not an artist? Like, what? I feel like that word gets thrown around so much, and it's just kind of like,
limit of the English language.
Yeah.
Because we take a bunch of words that would mean different aspects of an artist, and we combine it into one word that is just artist. Yeah. And definitely, like, I think that for the most part, it does apply to everything it's used for.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't allow it to be honed down to what it could mean. So, like, an artist is a creator.
Yeah.
But artist also specifically can sometimes mean just painter.
Yeah.
Or just drawer, or with that type of work.
Like there's a visual medium that a lot of people associate with that.
Right. Like, technically, I'm a VFX artist.
Yeah.
But no one really thinks of that when you say artist.
Right.
But the term is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even necessarily like using the term artist when describing my own stuff because I don't think that it is yet art.
Yeah.
Or at least yet good art.
Mm.
Technically, I guess it is art because you're still applying the same rules as that of a canvas.
Yeah.
To a video.
Mm.
You're still layering stuff on it. You're still adding to it. You're still affecting it, but it's in a completely different medium.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I don't know. I always like the term craftsman better.
Yeah, because
I feel like there was less to live up to at that point, but that's not necessarily a good thing.
Well, I
think it also, for me, indicated that there was like always more to go, more to learn.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like for me, that's just always kind of been what the term meant.
As opposed to like, there's more. It's kind of like the whole apprenticeship kind of thing. Almost,
apprenticeship, yeah.
Where it's like you work towards a, your apprentice. What's the order?
You're an apprentice, a journeyman, and master. Those are the three main ones. There are a couple other steps.
Yeah. So, there's something that you can set up goals for yourself better, probably that way. At least, and as far as how you feel you're progressing in your craft.
Yeah, and definitely like I don't know. For some reason, when someone says artist, in my mind, that is like kind of like a finished thing. Even though I understand artists are always learning and always improving, but like when you say artist, it's like
they've made it.
That's kind of like they've made it. Craftsman is like you're good, you have the skills, but there's always you can always do better. And I don't know, for some reason in my mind it's always triggered. But I've also been a woodworker for most of my life, and that's just the term used for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I'm more comfortable with it, just because that was more what I grew up with.
Yeah. No, that's totally. I almost like that better than there's less. Yeah, there's definitely less expectation, and in anything, life pro tip.
Oh, we got another one.
Life pro tip. There's always
we're gonna have at least one for every episode. Apparently.
Yeah. there's always stuff to. There's always room to grow. There's always time to learn. So it's like no one's perfect. Like, and that's kind of the human experience.
What are you talking about? My 14-year self was perfect and everyone else was stupid.
Mine too. Wow, what a coincidence.
What a coincidence. As it turns out, not true.
Yeah. If you've talked from the age of like 10 to sometimes 16, sometimes 18, you think you got it all figured out, and then it's like, oh, well,
what's
crap.
funny is that you have it all figured out until you actually have to step out into the real world, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Whether it's until you get your first job or you change location for, like, say, college, and you start living on your own, or at least not with your family, or something like that. Something kind of large will wake you up, and all of a sudden you will realize the world does not work the way you think it works.
Yeah.
And your parents did actually know what they were talking about the entire time.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm gonna kind of reel it back to
here we go.
Kind of as it by default. I feel like a lot of creators will kind of want to go off in a corner and kind of do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, I feel like the best ideas kind of come about when there's multiple minds. Definitely.
Collaboration is a huge tool for improving and learning. It's huge.
Yeah, just like another person to bounce your ideas off of.
That helps. What really helps though is someone who has a same or similar interest.
Exactly.
So someone who kind of knows what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Because like, say I run a video by my parents. They might be able to tell it's not perfect, but they don't know exactly what to critique.
Yeah.
They'll have generalizations like, oh, the acting could be improved upon, or something like that. And it's like, Yes. But
Yeah.
give me
Yeah.
give me something I can actually work with. Whereas if I show it to someone who actually does film,
Yeah.
then I get a whole bunch of different feedback. It's like,
Yeah.
I really like this. I really like this. You can improve, the inflections here. You could,
Yeah.
I really
Tighten
like
up
the
the
look
edit.
here.
Yeah.
Tighten up the edit. Maybe next time try like a pan shot instead of just a wide shot or something like that, where you get more detailed feedback, and from that you learn. Generalized feedback, while it does help, it makes it a much slower learning process because you have to figure out exactly what they're talking about.
Definitely.
So I think that somewhat applies to what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like that's why you usually, at least in music recording studios, there's like not just one engineer, there's at least one other guy or
Sure.
like an intern, and it's like, as opposed to staying in your own head and being like, yeah, that works, but then you play the record and it's like, that hi-hat's really loud and it's kind of hurting me. So, yeah.
Well, I think that anything, for the most part, there are, I think, exceptions to this rule, but definitely in the fields you and I are working on, you're always going to end up collaborating with people because you can't be good at everything.
Yes. Ding, ding, ding.
Like for me, I'm a film guy. I'm a decent director. I'm an okay cinematographer. I'm a pretty decent editor. But my audio skills are barely passable. I'm not good at it. That's why I collaborate with people like you, because you know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know how to fix it. I'm not that great at acting. I'll fill in where I have to, but I work with people who have more of a interest in that and more of a skill base in that. And just with, say, that small bit of collaboration, even though, say, I'm doing the majority of the camera and behind the scenes work from the video side, and you're doing the majority of like the audio work and stuff, and we have the actors, everyone's going to end up throwing input into everyone else's field,
whether it's called for or not.
Well, and here's the thing, is everyone has ideas.
Yeah.
And that's where the collaboration comes from. Now, sometimes someone will say something and you're like, well, that's not going to work. But it gets you thinking.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not going to work, but maybe I should break from what I was thinking to try something different, even if that's not the thing.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree.
I work with a guy who primarily does acting. And he'll have ideas of like where to run the camera, where to place the camera, stuff like that, and they don't always work. But sometimes he does bring up an idea that is better than mine, or at least different enough to kind of shake up what we were doing, to give it maybe like an interesting look or something like that. And listening to that, even again, if maybe I don't end up using it, but I still do it for him just so we kind of get through what we're doing, and then we go back and can actually compare and be like, okay, this is actually what ends up working better. And I think sound guys do a little bit of the same thing. Maybe we position here. Maybe, again, I think sometimes it's so that you can focus on something specific.
Yeah.
So like maybe like a sound guy's like, maybe move the camera here so I can get my mic here. Or something like that,
Location sound is a nightmare. And something I don't really want to pursue, but if it pays the bills, it pays the bills.
Right? But even, I'm thinking on set right now, but even editors and stuff will take a completely different look at footage that's given to them than a director will have wanted. I've seen that a few different times. Where an editor will take footage and pull it apart a little bit differently than the director had planned. Like he actually has ordered the shots a little bit differently than the director intended with the script and stuff. And it ended up working out really well. I think there was just a couple changes, but it ended up like really picking the beat up and moving into a really cool scene. And then obviously you get sound guys who are very specific about, like what has to be there, what doesn't, but they can really help out on set with like, okay, I need these sounds, I need this, I need that.
This line of dialogue is really important. Yeah.
Well, that can be, but I'm thinking even more like background stuff. Things that like, say me as a camera guy won't think about.
Room tone.
or specific clothing in certain environments. Very hard to replicate
Oh,
later.
yeah.
You want to pick that up, or for
Yeah.
certain footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
That's mostly Foley sound.
Yeah.
But different things like that, and even like the music guys can make a scene change completely just by what type of music they put in.
Yeah.
They can really make you feel differently than a director or even an editor intended.
Yeah. That reminds me of there's a clip online somewhere where there's a scene from Pirates of the Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
and where the ship is sinking as he's going into a harbor or somewhere, I think.
Yep.
And there's like 5 different types of music that like different moods.
Yeah.
And it like there's like, adventurous, mysterious, comical, and it's just kind of like it completely changes
The same
whole,
footage is
exactly,
completely changed just by the sound.
yeah.
And again, I think that there's a big gift in that. Again, not something that I am particularly gifted in, especially once I get a certain idea in my head. I don't like to necessarily try other ideas or other things to change it. And I'm also just not that good at the music side.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly important to listen to others' ideas and to try them out just to see maybe they have something. Sometimes an idea sounds really bad when someone says it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, there's no way that'll ever work.
Yeah.
And then you try it, and it actually turns out, that actually did kind of work.
Oh.
And I actually kind of like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I've been in a headspace, turned into a little bit of a like existential crisis, but
Avoid those as much as possible. Especially while you're in school.
Yeah, that'd be bad. But it was, and I stumbled. I was introduced to this book called "It's Not the Art of War, It's the War of Art," and it's kind of it's by this writer who
My camera just died for no reason.
rip. Later.
See you guys.
Sorry about that. Audio or the visual faded out there for a while, but we are back. I'm not really sure why that decided to happen. Might have been my roommate stepping on my power cord. Might have triggered something.
Oh.
Hopefully that doesn't happen again. Should be doing all right. Okay, well, we are back. So I do apologize. Nothing was really interrupted there. Just the visual cut out for a second.
Yeah. Where was I going with that? Oh, War of Art. I always want to say Art of War.
That is a book.
Yeah,
And that's a book I need
not,
to read.
not what I'm thinking of. And it's basically he talks about this idea of being pro as a creator.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea of resistance, which is basically procrastination, distraction, anything that keeps you from sitting down and doing your thing.
Okay.
And it's
Internet.
yeah, and
the easy one.
Yeah, and it's. I haven't read the book. I started listening to it online. I basically only listened to the preface. Yeah.
That really counts as starting listening to it, man.
Well, it gives a good idea of it kind of gives an overview of the whole book, and so from my understanding, from what I gathered from the preface, is that there's this idea of resistance, and kind of what makes you pro is how you deal with it. And since you're treating it as a job, it's like you think of the great creators as having these big ideas and they're kind of all over the place, but you can't make a living by being a thinker. Well, a philosopher might argue with that, but you gotta write papers,
So I gotta put in some kind of work.
Yeah, so it kind of the one of thoughts, words. Yeah. Where was I going with that?
I don't know. You started down this
Yeah,
rabbit trail
I know.
after your existential crisis.
Art of War, War of Art, Resistance,
Being a pro.
being a pro,
Yeah.
and so basically he wraps up by saying, every time you work on a project, it's it's the same battle as starting, as an amateur who's kind of like flipping, flopping through it and kind of like not, locking in and, buckling in, I should say.
Mm.
Or the pro that does the opposite and really zones in. And that's kind of what blew my mind. It's like, oh, so it's like, as opposed to it being a pro, instead of being a pro meaning, yeah, you're making money, it's being efficient and treating it as a job that it's not easy. Making stuff and kind of transferring vision to medium is definitely not easy, but at the end of the day, when you're done and you look back, it's like, what, that was pretty fun, let's do it again.
Filmmaking comes to mind right away. I do apologize, people. You've been seeing a square on my face for the last couple minutes. I do apologize.
The Russians are tracking it, so.
No, I'm just trying to think outside the box here. Oh, come on! You didn't think of it.
No, I didn't. I just clipped like real bad. I'm sorry, guys.
You fix it in post. They won't even notice.
No, you can't. No.
I mean, you'll get cut off, but you won't actually blast their
You
drums.
can't. You can't fix clipped or distorted stuff.
You make it quieter so it doesn't kill them.
Yeah. I can do that, but it'll always, when you look at it physically, it's like, instead of it being like, whoop, it stops. Digital 0 says no. But yeah, that's kind of what I had to bring to the table and what I've been thinking about. Gonna definitely check out. I'll get back to you after I read or listen to whatever. However I consume War of Art, and I'm not really a reader, so we'll see how that goes.
I used to be a big reader.
Mm.
And then I stopped doing it when I was in high school. Kind of went back into it in between high school and college. And then when I hit college, I just kind of stopped because I was reading enough in school to make me not want to continue sitting around reading things.
Mm.
And then I never got back into it after that. I got really hooked on video games and videos and film. Re-hooked on film.
Yeah.
And then once I had free time again, it was like, hey, fill up my free time with my hobbies, and reading wasn't one of them. But I've been trying to get back into it. I got a couple books I need to read, so hopefully that'll all come together.
Yeah. The last book I read, here's my problem. I start books and then I don't finish them.
One of those.
Yeah, so the recent book I finished, and this was like a while ago, was Golden Compass.
Ah.
Yeah.
Never read it.
Super. So I didn't know anything about it. The only thing I knew is that a bunch of there was a lot of criticism and praise. It was super polarizing,
Mm-hmm.
at least in the circles that we run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There was some controversy
Yeah,
around it.
it's like what a lot of people were saying is that it was an allegory about, was it? I guess it was just Christianity or atheism.
Yeah, again, I haven't read it, nor have I seen the movie. I've just heard that there were issues on a religious level. Again, not having looked into it, I'm not actually sure what those issues are.
Yeah.
So
here's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm just stupid and I just missed it, but I didn't really see it. I didn't really see the
Well, from what I understand, the book is not as polarizing as the movie was.
Yeah, I didn't see the movie either. So.
From what I understand, now I could be wrong, but from what I understand, now I have not read or seen either one, so I don't know that. But it seemed to me that the controversy really started when the movie came out.
Interesting.
And I heard that it took some different paths than the book did.
Okay.
Now again, I don't know how true that is, having
not seen the movie,
not seen or read.
Yeah.
So, and not actually knowing anyone who watched it, I just heard this stuff like online and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough to really comment on that.
Yeah.
Other than I heard there was controversy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was the last book that I read, and then I started the second book, and I just couldn't get into it. And I still own them. I still have all three. And so I would, if I was ever interested again, I would probably, read Golden Compass again, and then go from there. But the book that I started most recently was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
42.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's the book.
The ultimate life pro tip. 42.
No, it's not a pro tip. That is just the answer to life.
Spoiler.
Well, yeah. If you haven't seen it by now,
yeah,
tough.
Yeah, it was a meme before memes were memes.
Yeah,
yeah.
There's no way you don't know this, or if you did, that you would. If you didn't understand that reference, then it didn't spoil anything.
Yeah, and I just, it's kind of the same thing. School kind of took over my life, and then I didn't carve out time to just sit down and read. And I loved it. I loved what I read of it. And it's a short book. I have no excuse. This is not me making excuses. This is me just telling you the way it is. But
well, I mean, I can't really say much. The last couple of years, I've only really read a couple of books, and the two most recent ones I started were actually written by friends of mine, and I've yet to finish either one.
Is that Ashton?
That was one of them.
Yeah.
She just finished her 7-book series, her first series. I was in the middle of the first book when I moved, and I didn't own the book. She had lent it to me, and so I didn't want to move with it.
Yeah.
For fear of either losing it or whatever. So I gave it back, and I've never picked up another copy. And then another friend of mine gave me their first draft of a book that they're working on, and I am almost halfway done with that.
Cool.
And I'll be giving feedback on that, but I have not finished it yet, and I've had it for over a month.
Well, you got time. I mean,
well, I should finish it. I mean, it wouldn't take me long to just sit down and finish it, but I only have an electronic copy. I'm not used to reading that way.
Yeah, I can't get into the Kindle, ebook.
I got it for school. I got into it for school. I had a tablet, and it was way easier than carrying around 5 books that are 3 inches thick each.
Yeah.
And it was very handy for certain classes because it was much easier to prop up a tablet in a case than a book. So it was very easy to do some of my computer classes and stuff with the instructions just sitting there. And again, it just made it way lighter. My computer already weighs 12 pounds. So adding 30 pounds of books made my backpack a little uncomfortable, although it did become a very decent weapon Or protective shield, however you want to look
depending on the way you wore it.
The way I wore it.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny when I would be in school. I'd have all my stuff spread out on a table, and I would take up maybe like half of a cafeteria table or something like that, almost, if I had everything kind of spread out.
Yeah.
And then I would pack it all into this backpack I had, and it would just all disappear into the backpack. And the backpack didn't even look like all that stuffed when I would have it in there. People would always be like, how the heck did you get all of that to fit? And I'd be like, well, here, hold my bag. And I would lift it up with one hand and just hand it to them. And quite a few times they would just... I was like, yeah.
Was that military?
Yeah, the Marine backpack I had. Yep.
Huh. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, my bag's right here, and it's just, it's not, what makes it heavier is, the only thing is really this.
That's not heavy. That's like 3 pounds. 5 at the most.
No, I would say it's about 3. But like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I'm like skin and bones, and that, you know, that has a factor into it. And
sure.
You know, it's like, you know, I mean, it's not like unbearable. It's not like I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, my backpack legit weighed like 30 pounds, a few different times.
Did you weigh it?
I've gotten pretty good at being able to tell like approximate weights just by holding things.
Mm.
So it was like legit like 30 pounds. It was heavy. That was one of my bigger semesters where I actually had to bring in like extra change of clothes and shoes for one of my PE classes. I had books. I had my computer.
Oh, you had to take PE?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have to.
But you chose.
But I did as like some of my electives.
Oh, cool.
So like I did like karate for one semester. I did walking/running for another one. That was actually pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
Just a big group of people walking around Canada.
Yeah. I think my girlfriend did that in school too.
It was fun.
Yeah. The only they have a weird name for it. It's called PALS. Like, is it physical activity and leisure? It's like, what's a leisure class? What? Today we're going to lay in hammocks.
Liberal arts. Gender studies.
Oof. All right. We're not gonna go there.
Those are leisure classes because you don't have to think when you're in them.
Anyway.
Oh, come on. You're going to avoid these.
Well,
who are you worried about offending? No one here.
In the internet, this room, yes. Or the internet?
No,
here,
dude. In this room.
Well, no one in this room because it's just you and I.
Right.
But like, since this is going out to the netherworld of the internet.
This is one of the problems with modern day internet and modern day liberalism, in my opinion. Now, I think you've been affected since you go to Ithaca College. Now you kind of know where we are. Is people should not be afraid to offend other people to an extent.
Well, I mean, don't be a jerk. I mean, like,
right, but saying things that are considered offensive without actually being offensive.
Such as
my comment that I just made.
I mean, so take someone who is, all right. Me personally, I would not pursue, like, there's a degree. IC offers a degree in women's and gender studies, and it's kind of one of the questions is, you know, so how does that degree help you find a job?
How does that degree help you do anything?
I mean, it's like,
what do you do with that degree?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. But
it's like a liberal arts degree.
Well, yeah. It's just kind of like extended high school kind of a thing.
But that doesn't actually get you really anywhere in life.
Yeah, it's like the art history degree, except if you end up working in a museum.
Right, but again, like, that actually it does have a path. Like, it's hard to get into. Like, good luck immediately going from college to museum.
Yeah.
We could maybe go into architecture with that. Not architecture. Analyzing antiques, but it's not in a museum. There's actually there's actually a field for that.
The people on the Antiques Roadshow.
Similar to that. There's actually there's a field where you study.
I don't know what it's called.
Specifically old art, but even antiques and stuff. It's again kind of a niche thing. It's not like something you can just get into if you have the degree. But something like that even.
Huh. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not really I don't really see that's not attractive to me, at least. So it's like, it's like, well, why would you want to pursue a degree in something that you like? But
I also, to an extent, think that being offended by words. We're back to this.
Yeah. Thank you for reeling it in.
Being offended by words shows a very thin skin and is it makes it hard to go through life without just being offended all the time. Short of people actually calling for you to be hurt or killed, being offended is just... I actually somewhat, at least for the most part, believe the saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." If you are confident in who you are and what you believe, very rarely are words going to change that outside of an actual discussion.
Yeah, but that not every person is as confident as, say, you are.
Well, I'm not saying that they are. What I'm saying is that we need to... If you expose people to that, they will grow with thick skin. That's just how it works. Yeah. I'm not saying you verbally abuse kids, but I'm just saying that letting just kids sometimes be kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
And say somewhat mean things to each other. I mean, it's just going to improve their ability to function later on, as long as you don't allow it to escalate.
Yeah, and I mean, there's that, but then it's like, so you're encouraging,
Not encouraging, allowing. I wouldn't go out of my way to tell them, hey, go do this, or go say this.
Yeah, they can do that all on their own. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But in today's culture, I think that too many people are too easily offended. Over nothing.
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, there's definitely, I would definitely say there's, some things are warranted. Not warranted. Some things kind of, well, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess there's the whole idea of, I saw this video one time where, made by a friend of mine, where it's like the racist classes, where, you put them on, and, there's...
You see the stereotypes.
Yeah, you can make anything be offensive, and it's basically the whole point was, you make it that,
right?
As opposed to, I mean, there's definitely, in terms of racism, the term institutional, it's kind of been handed down, without, it's just kind of the norm. And it's been the norm for so long that, when someone challenges it, it kind of,
So you actually believe there is institutionalized racism?
I don't know.
Still, in this country?
In this country?
Or are you talking worldwide?
I'm talking in America.
Okay.
And I'll just preface this, you know. I know not the plights of, you know, the African American culture, in the U.S. But anyway, it's something I really haven't like done serious research and studying in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but as a layman kind of looking at, you know, the news and, you know, kind of and even talking to older people, you know, there's just there's something not right. Like I was, there were my girlfriend's grandmother, has vocally, you know, made her opinion known that she didn't like mixed couples.
Sure. So there are still racists.
Yeah.
I agree with that. However, I disagree with your premise that there's institutional racism left in the country.
Yeah. No. Okay. So
we've had a black president.
Yeah.
That is the highest position in the United States that you can reach.
Yeah.
And a black man made it.
Yeah.
That fairly well proves that even if there is institutionalized racism, it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, it's like there are little pockets. So it's kind of strange. So you have, you know, you have Obama elected, and then the next president is kind of, well, he was kind of on the opposite end of that, if that makes sense. Kind of like, you know, in terms of what he said.
Well, definitely, but I don't think that it matters what people say in this case. It's like we didn't elect Barack Obama because he was black.
Right. We elected him.
I mean, I didn't vote for him at all. But he was elected partially because he was black. I'm sure that played a small part, but it was more off what he said and how he said it.
Yeah.
It was more off his ideals.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting that he kind of rode the wave of social media, and he used it to his advantage, and kind of, especially bringing in young people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But again, I don't like again. He made it.
Yeah.
Look at any industry or any position in government, any position in the country. There are people of a whole bunch of races in those positions. CEOs, senators, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There are people of both mixed, you know, races, genders. There is no institutional racism or sexism.
Yeah.
Again, there are still racists.
There still are sexists.
There still are sexists.
Yeah. But
But the institution of America is no longer against those people.
even if, so they can hold those positions, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But is it as black and white as that? So like,
Well, again,
so like pay kind of comes to.
have you actually looked into this?
I have not.
Okay, I have.
Okay.
I've actually done the research into this because it's been brought up a few different times.
Mm-hmm.
There is no such thing as the wage gap, which I assume is where you're going with this.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no such thing. The wage gap, the numbers that are quoted, which I believe is now 77 cents to $1,
Mm-hmm.
like that's what a woman makes versus a man. Yeah, that is blanket statement across all men and women working in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That does not take into consideration how long they work, what the jobs are,
Mm-hmm.
what the pay is per those jobs. It's just blanket. All working men, all working women. If you actually look into the research, men tend to work harder than women. They do harder or higher paying jobs like truck driving, sewer maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
underwater welding. More men are in those industries just because women don't want to do it. Also,
Mm-hmm.
they are primarily man run because men have been doing them for so long that
Mm-hmm.
that's just the norm.
Mm-hmm.
But women are slowly getting into them. I used to drive truck. I've run into women truck drivers, but men far outnumber the women. Women take longer vacations and more vacations. Women take more time off of work for sick days. Women retire earlier, on average. Again, this is not a 100% thing. So some women work way harder than men.
Yeah, it's like there's the number. There's too many people, and the United States is too big to kind of, really.
Well, again, the number is not about. It's not like a job for job thing. It's not like they took a guy who's been working at a company for 10 years and a woman who's working at the same company for 10 years, and was like, the man makes more. No, that's not right. That's false. That's not true.
Yeah.
Again, you do still have a little bit of that here and there with like private-owned businesses, maybe, but that's it. It's not institutionalized. There is no actual wage gap in the United States.
Interesting.
The only place it might, and I say might with the tiniest air of thing, is maybe Hollywood. Maybe. But even then, if you look at the situations where they talk about it, it tends to be a big thing.
In all jobs, so like acting and actual making.
Don't know about so much behind the scenes because it's not talked about as much. I'm more talking about like women who come out, like primarily actresses who come out and say like, I was paid this much for the movie while the guy I was working with was paid this much. But if you actually look at a lot of those, it's actually more to do with experience or amount of time on camera.
Interesting.
So like Jennifer Lawrence came forward at one point and she started a movie with, I think it was Mark Wahlberg. And she was complaining that she didn't make, or she didn't, I wasn't going to say complain, but she pointed out that she didn't make near as much as he did. Duh. He's been working in Hollywood how much longer than she has? At one point, he was the highest paid actor in Hollywood.
Interesting.
Like, he would not step on a movie set unless you paid him, I think it was $40 million.
Jeepers. Huh.
I think now it's Robert Downey Jr. who's
that makes sense.
The number one.
That makes sense.
And I want to say he's like 60-something million. Now, they can accept roles for less. But so many people want them in their movies, and they're in so much stuff that essentially it's a bidding war. And they kind of set their own price.
Yeah, so it's...
Okay, something's going on here with my camera. This setup does not seem to be working. And I'm not sure why. I do apologize, everyone. This is now the second time that this has happened.
Rip.
I do apologize. We are back now. I don't have my face box on anymore.
But yeah.
So I'll have to figure out what's going on with that before our next session.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, I have looked into this. I've actually looked into the numbers and stuff. And even though it's something that has been thrown around a lot, especially by third-wave feminists and liberals, stuff like that, it is actually very unfactually true.
Yeah, I would, just for me personally, and I think for viewers too, if you could, find like some of the articles. And
I can find some of the stuff I looked up, and I'll put links.
Good.
I'll put links in the description for some of the stuff.
Cool.
I encourage you guys to go do your own research, fact check me, get back to me, but the numbers hold up. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other stuff I've studied that really isn't relevant here, but
anyway, yeah.
That one is one of the bigger myths that is thrown around. That there is an actual wage gap. Another thing that's actually not really taken into consideration is that men are more likely to ask for raises than women are. So men who maybe have been working at a company the same amount of time as a woman may actually be getting paid more because they will ask for more money, where women won't.
Yeah, and it. Yeah.
And that's not a business being sexist. That is a business being a business. If they give one person a raise, they're not just going to immediately give everyone else a raise If it's because the person came to them and was like, I think I deserve more money because I offer this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
And it could be that the guy actually maybe works longer. Maybe he works overtime more often. Maybe he comes in and fills in for people. Maybe he does this stuff, and that's why he thinks he deserves more. Yeah. And obviously not every time a man goes and asks for more money does he get more money.
Right.
But say the wage gap was real, right? Say that companies could get away with paying women 77 cents for every dollar they paid a man. Wouldn't they look to just hire women?
Yeah, that's an interesting...
That would save them so much money in the long run. There's no way that that's actually a thing.
Yeah.
Again, with exceptions of maybe some very small private-owned businesses. Maybe there. But that is not an institutional thing at that point. That's an individual thing, and if you notice it, either bring it up to them or leave. And eventually, if you spread the word enough to people who work there, the business is going to go under unless they fix the practice. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, this could go into a whole discussion about minimum wage and should there actually be a minimum wage and stuff like that. That could lead into a whole new discussion, which I think we should hold off on today.
Yeah. I think we are at time. So
we are we have exhausted our audience's attention span.
Yeah, we went from the depths of the inner mind and such to institutional stuff.
I'm just gonna point out you brought up both.
Yep. I take full responsibility.
I mean, I went down those rabbit trails. I dove down head first and was very eager to talk about them, but you brought them up.
I'm a mover and a shaker. What can I say? All right. Well,
I think that you're tainted being at such a liberal college.
Well, the environment is, you can take you can take the boy out of the liberal college, but you can't take the liberal college out of the boy.
I beg to differ, and I will make it my effort to change that.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right.
As we change David back into a conservative.
All right.
Hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully we'll have most, if not all, of our bugs fixed by then.
Yep.
And,
sayonara.